think we're good on my end. Looks like we're live. What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Yes, it's been a minute, but we are back. A lot to talk about. What's up? Welcome to Hawks Hoops Live. I'm your host, Hawk. You know, the intro is different because normally I would say it happens every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. But it ain't been every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. The last time we was live, I think it was like a month ago. We talked about Victor Wembanyama. And now we got a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a frustrated stream. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a frustrated stream. It's going to be frustrated. Yo, it's such a great day. It's such a great day to be back. Ain't even realized I was muted until I saw this say, now you muted yourself. We can't hear you. I wonder how long this is going to take. We'll see how long this is going to take. Like I said, like I was saying earlier, before I realized I was muted, welcome back to All Hoops Live. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've been live. I started late, so that's my fault. You know what I mean? The stream was laggy when I started. The OBS was wilding. I had 10 Chrome tabs open. It was wilding. Had to close out Chrome. I haven't restarted my laptop in like a week, so I'm just fingers crossed that the stream ain't wilding today and ain't lagging. A lot I want to talk about, but it wouldn't be a Hawk stream if the mic was muted for the first 3 minutes of the stream. That's just me. You know what I mean? Sleazy says, welcome back. Sleazy, what's good with you, my guy? How you been? What if we let him do the whole joint? Whole joint muted. Anyway, what I want to talk about, obviously. So much I want to talk about. I'm going to have to calm myself down a little bit because I ain't going to hold you. Being a Sixers fan is very frustrating. It has been very frustrating this week. So let's get into this. Most of this in the beginning, I'm sure we've all heard, but I got to at least lay the foundation so we're all on the same page in case somebody is living under a rock and hasn't heard what's been going on the last couple of days. So Monday morning, Shams tweets this lovely tweet out that we all see first thing in the morning, Monday. Oh, see, I'm getting a little bit of lag. I think I'm all right, but I am seeing a little bit of lag. I am noticing I got to figure out what's going on. Next time no one say anything is crazy. Next time no one say anything is crazy. All right, so we get this tweet from Shams. August 14th, which was Wednesday, at 6:50 in the morning. I get up for 6:30 for work, right? I go to brush my teeth. On the way to work, I get in the car. I said, let me just check Twitter real quick before I start my commute. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody, we wake up, we check our phones. It's the dead of the off season. It's been pretty dry. That's honestly why I haven't been on a live. We'll get to that in a second. We'll talk about some more of that stuff in a second, but it's been dry, right? So I wasn't expecting nothing crazy. And what do? We wake up and see this dumpster fire of a moment. Yes, specifically Harden fat suit coming. Let's go. All right. we see this first thing in the morning. Let me pull this up. I gotta update my stream deck because my stream deck's acting up, so I can't switch screens as fast as I'm used to. So you're gonna have to bear with me on the screen switching. All right, we wake up to this first thing in the morning, Monday. And I don't think I've watched it since Monday, so let's rewatch it again. Let me see.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
So if you don't know, as soon as I seen the person, I thought all I thought about was you. Oh, as soon as I seen it, the person, no, but for real, like 3 people DM me that, like 3-4 people DM me that morning, like, yo, oh, you want to talk about this? Like, what's going on? So if you don't know, James Harden is in China when this is happening. If I'm not mistaken, he's at an Adidas event. He's at an Adidas camp. He's really big in China. The country of China rock with James Harden heavy. They rock with his Adidas shoe heavy. He has a big fan base in China. So he always goes over in the summer to do camps in China. Sometimes he even goes over the regular season in China. Like, him being in China wasn't out of the ordinary. That's not an out of the ordinary thing. But him saying, let me go back to full screen. But him saying Daryl Morey is a liar and that will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again. And then he says, let me, because at first I'm like, wait, did he just say that? Then he says, let me repeat. Daryl Morey is a liar and I will never be a part of an organization that he is a part of. Nah, sleazy. Low-key, I was thinking this too. Because they was cheering in my head. I was like, why is he clapping? But then I thought about it. I'm going to tell you why he was clapping. Because China don't rock with Daryl Morey neither on the low. I don't know if the people themselves don't rock with Daryl Morey, but I know the government of China don't rock with Daryl Morey because when China was having their issues with Hong Kong, I'm not a political science major. I can't tell you everything that was going on in the Chinese political landscape, but when Daryl Morey was still in the GM of Houston, he put out this tweet, just simply free Hong Kong. And a lot of people was putting out tweets like that. Daryl Morey's big in the NBA. NBA was like, yo, you messing up our China relations. So China don't rock with Daryl already. So that might have been why they was clapping. To be honest, I truly don't know. I'm just speculating here, right? What you say, VR? Let me see. It's low-key, Short and stuff is real. Short Sam tweeted it. Short Sam's tweeted it. But there's no way there's only one POV. And you know what's also crazy? If Shams wasn't the one who tweeted this, I'm going to keep it a bean. I would have thought it was either AI generated or like he really was there and they just dubbed over some audio to make it sound like him and it's really what he was saying. I'm taking it just because Shams said it. And yes, I agree. It's like, because it's like, where we at? It's like 20, 30, 40 cameras in front of this man right now. Between people's phones, mirrorless DSLRs. I see cameras with mics attached to them. Like, it's mad cameras here. We only got one angle of this so far. Very interesting, but also not to sound crazy. I'm not even going to get into it. China be like watching what goes out on their internet, yada, 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 whatever. That's neither here nor there. The point is, this was said, right? So let's break down how we got to this point. Let's talk about how we got here, right? Because yes, sure, Shams tweeted it. We're just going off of Shams is Shams. So we're going to go off of Shams. We're going to take Shams at his tweet. We're going to take the man at his word, essentially. So if you don't know, just to bring you up to speed, like I said, we're going to bring everybody up to speed, that I'm going to tell you where I think this can go from here, potentially. Harden had, to bring everybody up to speed, at the end of the 2022 regular season, so at the end of last season, James Harden had a 40-something, $44, $42 million player option going into this year, going for last season. He decided to opt out of that player option. I actually can tell you the $47.3 million player option he had. He opted out of that in the summer of 2022. He then re-signs a deal. He signed a 2-year, $68 million. He took a pay cut, $15 million pay cut, ended up making about $33, $35 million a year. $15 million less than what that 47 would have been. And at the time, everybody was like, okay, James Harden took a pay cut, so the Sixers now have some money to work with. We ended up signing PJ Tucker and Daniel House with that money. The decision maker behind that, we could have did something else with that money, but that's what we did with that money, right? Fast forward to this summer, there's these rumblings, not even the summer, fast forward to just spring. There's rumblings that James Harden might want to go to Houston. Houston's thinking about giving him a max contract. Then we get time to the free agency. James Harden decides to, at the time, there was rumors that he might opt out of the second year of his player option, this coming 2023-2024 season, and see what's available on free agency. Well, it turned out, long story short, there wasn't that much available in the free agency. Houston decided they were moving in a different direction. Once they got Ime Udoka, they give Fred VanVleet the bag that James Harden thought he was going to get. Fred ends up making $40 million a year instead of Harden. They give Desmond Bane a bag as well. They give not Desmond Bane. I always get Desmond Bane and that other dude confused. Names really just be slipping out of my mind. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Dillon Brooks. They give Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet the money that James Harden thought he was going to get from Houston. James Harden and his agent, I'm sure, were looking around the landscape of the NBA and was like, yo, who going to pay me a max? Or at least close to it, whatever the max is for me. Who going to pay me my version of the max? Not, the Jaylen Brown Supermax that he just signed. I'm not talking about that. Just who going to pay me? And there wasn't any options out there. There wasn't a big market clamoring to sign James Harden. And so once he realized that, he goes, oh, hold on. I'm going to opt into my player option. So now he's under contract in Philly. This is the last year of his contract. He's under contract for this season, about $35 million. And he says, you know what? I'm opting in, but I want to trade. Trade me. I want to go to the Clippers. Now he got his $35 million contract. They're trying to make something work. Daryl Morey's like, okay, we're going to try to move you, but I'm not moving you for table scraps. If I move you, I'm moving you for what I want. Basically, yes. Basically, James Harden wanted more money after taking a pay cut. They didn't give it to him. They said they was going to trade him, and they didn't. Now, that's the long and short of it. Yes, Sleazy. The only part that is different to me, and I don't think you're saying it like this, but a lot of people are putting it on the Sixers, and y'all can call me a homer. I truly do see both sides of it. James Harden, he's 100% right to feel wronged in this. But in the same breath, what do we say all the time? The NBA is a business. What do we say all the time? Teams going to do what's the best interest for them. What do we also say all the time? Six players should try to get the most money possible because it's a business and teams don't really care about them. So my catch-22 is here. Why are we always surprised when teams act like it's a business? Because we always say it's a business, but then we're surprised when teams act like it's a business, right? So obviously, if you're the Sixers, it makes 0 sense to pay James Harden. Honestly, if you any organization, I'm gonna keep it a B. It makes 0 sense to pay James Harden at this current age $40 million a year. Like, it doesn't make sense to pay him $40 million for even the next 3 years. James Harden right now is, I should know his age, but I don't off the top of my head. James Harden right now is 33. So even if you sign like a 3-year, 120, making $40 million a year, he'll be 37, making $40 million in the last season. I don't think teams are wanting to sign him to that, right? So hear me out. James Harden thought he was going to be slick. James Harden thought he was going to trust Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey thought he was going to be slick. And now both James Harden and Daryl Morey find themselves in this very unique situation that is, to me, I don't think the NBA has ever seen, at least that I don't think we've seen a situation like this. There have been plenty of disgruntled superstars. There have been plenty of times when an agent has come out, kind of, sort of. There's been a report from Woj, Shams, Sean Marks, whoever, that, sources say X player doesn't want to play for his team. X player wants to trade. X player might threaten to sit out. I don't think we have ever seen a player basically get in front of cameras and straight up call their GM a liar, because a liar is crazy in terms of calling somebody a liar in the business world where you're the GM of a team and your reputation and is dealing with players and signing contracts, calling somebody a liar in terms of like the business world and all you do is negotiate contracts is a crazy allegation, one. And two, saying you're never going to play with him, play for his organization again publicly. We've never seen this, right? We truly have never seen something like this happen before. So here's where I am on this whole thing, right? Here's where I am. Daryl Morey, we've already seen Daryl Morey prove, and I think that's why James Harden felt like he had to do this, because he saw the writing on the wall. He knew James Harden knows how he got to Philly in the first place. James Harden is well aware of how Daryl Morey handled the Ben Simmons trade. Ben was like, yo, I don't want to be here. I don't want to play for the Sixers. Y'all don't rock with me. I don't rock with y'all. I don't want to play for Doc. Like, I don't want to be here. I'm coming to practices barely. I'm getting kicked out of practices. Like, that whole firestorm of a training camp, first couple of months of the season, Daryl dug his heels in and was like, Ben, I'm not trading you until I get a real viable option back for you. Right. Now, Daryl has basically already made it clear that he also won't move James Harden unless he gets a viable trade piece for him. Now, the catch-22 here is on the flip side is James Harden and his agent might be like, yo, you are saying you're asking for unrealistic trade packages for me. No one's going to give up a star, young players, and picks for me at my age and with only 1 year on my contract. So maybe that's why James Harden felt like, yo, I got to go ahead and just say I don't want to be here and let the world know that he's a liar and I'm not playing for this team. Maybe they just felt like they were boxed into a corner. When people get boxed into a corner, they do some wild stuff. I don't think there's a real world though. And yeah, we'll get to what this means for Philly. Because yes, Embiid already moved the Philadelphia from his bio. But Joel is also, we call him, his Twitter bio interview was on a stage, was at an event, and the interviewer asked him, like, ultimately, like, you know, what do you want to do with your career? And Joel was like, well, I won an MVP. Ultimately, the next step is to win a championship. I really want to win a championship, whether that's in Philly or in another city. So Joel has already sprinkled the seeds amongst 76ers fans of like, I mean, I just want to win. It's either with y'all or not with y'all. So Sixers fans were already having a rough summer with that quote going out from Joel. And now we here with Harden. Let me get back to Harden for a second. In a second, I want to see what y'all saying in these comments though. Let's see. Sleazy, that's where I'm like, I kind of see both sides. I'm not playing James Harden more than what Fred VanVleet is getting paid. I'm not mad at that. And you know what's funny to me? That Fred VanVleet contract, not set a precedent, but I can't say it set a precedent. And I can and I can't. The same reason I can't is because teams make trades and sign deals based on their situation. The Rockets had to give that money out. They only have X amount of roster spots. They have to spend X amount of money. They have to meet a minimum floor of the salary cap in general. And most of their players on like rookie deals. So giving that money to Fred, it had to go somewhere. They couldn't like spread it across a bunch of players. And the free agency market wasn't amazing outside of like Fred, James Harden, allegedly. Like the free agent market wasn't crazy. So they went out, they got a point guard, try to bring some winning to the culture. I'm not mad at Fred for going to get that bag. Meanwhile, Russ is making $8 million. Russ's situation is also a little different. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. I'm happy Russ has just got a job at this case. I get that still there are better options than Fred. People be telling me this, but I haven't looked into it a ton. But when I just did my first glances, if they were looking for a point guard, I don't know who else was available other than Fred, especially considering they didn't want to, outside of trading away some of them young pieces to get a different point guard. I don't know what point guard was available other than Fred. I don't remember point guards getting signed this offseason. Kyrie was out there, but I don't think they wanted Kyrie. no offense to Kyrie, like that's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself, but I just don't think they wanted Kyrie. They went with Fred. Kyrie, I think, wanted to stay in a winning situation, or at least a hopefully winning situation in Dallas. The Rockets, even if Kyrie went there, are still not a winning situation. Even with Fred and I'm blanking on Dylan Brooks' name today, but even with Fred and Dylan Brooks, the Rockets still aren't in a winning situation. That was also part of the struggle with the Rockets. It was like, yo, what guard want to come here and just get a bag and probably still miss the playoffs? Because newsflash, I don't think the Rockets are making the playoffs. That's a hot take, maybe, but I still don't think they're making the playoffs, even with Fred. Hey, what's good with you? Thanks for pulling up to the stream. Get rid of Embiid and tank for Cooper Flag. That's nasty, bro. I can't even fathom that idea. Anthony Don says, well, Hawkeye must ask, you think the 76ers will do well in the regular season or do better in the postseason compared to last season? Because you lost a couple of guys with how Harden potentially not coming back. I think Embiid is going after the season. I don't know what the Sixers are going to look like. I'll answer that in short, in two pieces, right? So not last thoughts, but wrapping up the James Harden spot here. And so now we have Harden threatening to not play. Ramona Shelburne shortly after, I think on Tuesday morning, yes, Ramona Shelburne's on ESPN with, was NBA Today. They're talking about the situation. And Ramona Shelburne saying this is just the beginning. James Harden plans on making it extremely uncomfortable for the Sixers if he's brought into training camp. There's reports, rumors that what does it even look like if he doesn't play? And if he does show up and make things uncomfortable, we've seen the fat suit in Houston. We saw the fat suit kind of sort of with the Nets, but we really saw it in Houston. I don't think there's a world where he just straight up doesn't show up because, and I'm sure most of us have seen this by now, but I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't just share it with y'all just in case you haven't. One of the things that is built into the CBA, I was even wrong myself because at one point I thought this was a new thing that was in the CBA because me and my boys was talking about this honestly like a month or two ago. We just happened to be randomly talking about it, and I thought it was a new edition. Apparently, it's been there since at least 2017, 2016. Don't quote me on that, but it's basically, Bobby Marks talked about it here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to show y'all the tweet. It's called the Withholding Services Clause. Essentially, it's if a veteran player, let me kind of read the whole thing because it is a little niche. Let me make this a little bigger for y'all so we can actually see this. Boom. Boom, boom. Boom. There we go. Here's the CBA language for withholding services. Withholding services. A player who withholds playing services called for by a player contract for more than 30 days after the start of the season covered by his player contract shall be deemed to not have completed his player contract by rendering the playing services called for thereunder. Essentially, if a player doesn't play for 30 days once the season starts, it's considered withholding services. If you're under contract, it's considered withholding services. Specifically, what makes the Harden situation apply to this is because he's in the last year of his deal. Accordingly, such a player shall not be a veteran free agent and shall not be entitled to negotiate or sign a player contract with any other professional basketball team unless and until the team for which the player last played expressly agreed otherwise. And I want to say Bobby Marks continued on and talked about why this is different than the Ben Simmons situation. Let me scroll. This was included in 2017 CBA, and in prior agreements, it had no teeth. Because a lot of people are comparing this to Ben Simmons situation just because it's the Sixers and our star point guard wanted to not play for us in back-to-back seasons. It's just phenomenal. It has no teeth with the Ben Simmons situation because he still had 4 years left on his deal. Harden is a free agent next summer, right? So that's where we are with that. Let me see who they're talking about. Yeah, and his fines, if he sits out, we're going to be crazy. His fines would be Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons didn't have to pay back the Sixers any money. He just didn't receive, he just didn't receive game checks. We were going with somewhere here. So what's next? Thank you. So essentially, last thing of the withholding clause, because I was reading about this too. On paper, it's like, okay, so if James Harden doesn't play for the Sixers can just block him from signing anywhere. That's in the NBA or outside of the NBA. They could just block him from signing anywhere, apparently. But also, it's a lose-lose for the Sixers because I got to find out more. But I was listening to Bobby Marks break this down. I was listening to ESPN put out like a YouTube video. He was recording from home. Like, it was a whole 15-minute breakdown of just the withholding services clause. And he was essentially like, it's a double-edged sword, because even if the Sixers block him from signing anywhere else, he would still be a cap hold on them next season, and that would limit some of their flexibility in terms of signing free agents next summer, because quiet as kept, the Sixers, if this plays out in a perfect world, Harden finishes out his contract with this season, or for some reason Harden's just off the books and we don't trade for somebody else that's on the books longer, the Sixers essentially could have like $70 million in cap space next summer. But if they withhold Harden, it could impact that cap space and limit some of our flexibility. So it's a lose-lose, honestly, on all ends. And I don't know what exactly they're going to do if it gets to the withholding clause. Personally, I don't think it's going to get that far. So what does this mean for the Sixers? Like Sleazy said, what's next? I'm going to tell you what's next. Daryl Morey, you got to figure this out. The Sixers don't have the luxury of another bridge year. I've been seeing a lot of people say, okay, well, the Sixers, you know what I mean? We survived, and we were 33-22 last season without Ben Simmons before we traded for James Harden. And then we figured it out. James Harden got traded. Second round exit. Joel was injured. Second round exit. I don't think the Sixers have the time, the ability. I don't think Joel Embiid has the patience for another bridge year, because I've seen a lot of fans be like, okay, whatever, trade James Harden. Maxi's the future. And while I think Maxey has a really, really bright future, yes, I don't think Maxey this coming season is going to be a point guard that can help this team win a championship. And I'm going to keep it a V. I'm just quiet as kept. I don't think that's the path that we need to go on. But also, same token, the Sixers as just an organization, like, let me just see one thing real quick, because before I say something crazy, I want to make sure I'm right before I'm wrong here and look crazy. Because this is what I'm hearing amongst not a lot, but some Sixers fans are like, we'll figure it out next summer. We'll figure it out next summer. We'll figure it out next summer. Joel Embiid still has years on his contract. Like, he's still going to be here. I think he's just entering into his 4-year extension that he signed. Yeah, his 4-year extension is just starting this season. He has a player option in the 2026-2027 year. Let me show this so y'all can see it, so y'all understand what I'm talking about here. So he's under contract at least until 2026, if not till 2027. So I know a lot of people are like, okay, well, we'll just figure it out. Maxey's going to continue to get better. You let Harden go. Tobias Harris is on the last year of his contract. We're going to have a lot of money in the offseason next year. That's not a realistic answer. That's not a realistic solution, considering Joel Embiid is 29 years old. So are we asking him to just waste another year? And now he's 30 next year? Because also, while all of this is going on with this James Harden hoopla, while all of this craziness is going on with James Harden, the Sixers also have to adjust to a new coach, a new system with that new coach. While I do think, yes, Nick Nurse is a really good coach, and I was excited to see what type of systems he would implement, if you're implementing a new coach and your starting all-star caliber point guard is either not playing, halfway playing, throwing on a fat suit to play, that's going to be a wrinkle. That's just going to be a wrinkle. And say you do move James Harden, you say this is a gap year, you say, okay, we'll figure it out next year, so this year is a wash. So then the following year, it's, okay, Nick Nurse would no longer be a new coach, but he's only still been a coach there for a year. And then whoever you then sign with that $70 million in the offseason, that's going to be a whole new team, basically a whole new team, whole new system that they have to implement those new guys. And if you're signing someone who allegedly, because this is what Sixers Twitter is telling me, who allegedly is going to move the needle, for $70 million, however they decide to spend that money in the offseason they have next year. Teams, we all know teams don't just assemble and figure it out in that first year that they assemble. It just don't work like that. It don't. So that's not, this situation makes it so it's not one bridge year we're talking about. We're talking 2 bridge years. And now we're looking at the 25-26 season. Joel Embiid is in his last guaranteed year of his contract. And the season after that, he's a player option. He might be looking around. He's looking at the landscape. Just, it's so easy to spiral down this rabbit hole of a year and a half. Joel's like, well, I'm out too then. Like, what we doing? And when I tell you, I don't think I get it. Every organization goes through their ups and downs. It was funny. Like, y'all know me. I be on Twitter. I follow a lot of Sixers people. Somebody tweeted, I think the Sixers are one of the most cursed franchises in the league. Like, we've been through so much lately. Shout out to my guy, Suns Geek. He replied, the Suns have been through a lot too. And while, yes, the Suns have. Devin Booker in his beginning of his career went through 1, 2, 3, if not 4 different coaches. He was on a team that had like 5 point guards at one point. Like, the Suns have been through a lot too. So every NBA team goes through a lot when they in their muddy down years just trying to figure it out. But when I tell you, it feels like the 76ers simply cannot figure this mess out. This is just like another needle in the haystack. Like, this is just another just adding to the pile. Just adding to the pile, bro. Just adding to the pile of just nonsense that's going on in Philly. The Philly sector. Also, Sleazy, I got a bone to pick with you, my guy. And your video when you were breaking this down on TikTok, your TikTok where you breaking this down, when you snuck in the Philadelphia second rounders, I said, hold on now. I ain't never heard nobody call us that. I ain't like it. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't like it. I did not. I think I commented on it. It was funny. You got the joke off, but I was like, hold on now. I don't. The Philadelphia second rounders sound crazy. If I'm being honest, with all this going on, I don't know if a lot of star players are going to want to sign with Philly. And that's the other interesting piece, right? And that's what I talked about earlier in the beginning of this when I said calling Daryl Morey a liar is a big allegation coming from James Harden. Someone, and you know what makes it even bigger of a crazier thing? This coming from James Harden, someone who him and Daryl were locked in. You feel me? Like, they was twinning him. Like, they was locked in Houston. Daryl gave Harden everything he wanted in Houston. You don't want a big man. You want PJ Tucker to be your 5? Bet. You want to play with Chris Paul? Bet. That'll work. You want to play with Russ? Bet. Like, he did any and everything that man James Harden want. You want the ball in your hand 24/7? Bet. You want a coach that's going to work to your system? Bring in D'Antoni. Bet. Like, him and Daryl Morey were like this. They was locked in. When James Harden gets traded to Philly, Daryl Morey basically sent his personal PJ to go pick that man up and met him at the airport. They embraced at the airport, bro, on the tarmac. He met that man at the airport. It definitely speaks to your point of, if I'm being honest, I don't know a lot of star players are going to want to sign with Philly. Like, it's like, to have your GM's reputation or your GM's integrity be questioned, and players' agents are going to take James Harden's words, but I guarantee you they at least going to like think about it. Like, hold on now, what are you talking about here? And this is the other half of this. The other half is there. It's not been outright said, but there was definitely some sort of wink, wink, nod, nod. So that's why James Harden is mad. The reason James Harden is mad, because I'm sure there was sort of wink, wink, nod, nod. If he was like, yo, I'm gonna take this pay cut and y'all gonna bless me on the back end. Because the Sixers just got fined and got our second round picks taken from us for tampering based off what we did last offseason. Because if you remember, James Harden took that $15 million pay cut. He signed that 2-year, $60 million deal. And then immediately they signed PJ Tucker and Daniel House. NBA looked into it. You know, I mean, basically it was understood that like y'all had talked to PJ Tucker and Daniel House before y'all got James Harden to agree to that. Y'all knew PJ Tucker and Daniel House was agreeing and coming to Philly as soon as James Harden dotted it, you know, the ink dried on James Harden's signature on that 2-year $60 deal. So they already got pulled for tampering for that. And then you call him a liar. So we got pulled for tampering and y'all ain't even tamper properly. Like we got in trouble for tampering for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like we're here because we got in trouble for tampering. So I don't know if you can get in trouble twice, but I'm like, could the NBA spin the block again and be like, now what was this back end deal that y'all talking about? We gonna get in trouble for tampering again? Like I don't know what's going on, bro. Like this don't make no sense to me. It makes no sense to me what's going on in Philadelphia right now, bro. No sense to me what's going on. Not Hawk Bree. Daryl Morey has surely done so much for Harden to get him a bag. Got him all the players he wanted. Even Daryl thinks Harden is better than MJ. He did. And that's why, and that's my point of, him calling him a liar is crazy because they was locked in, bro. They was locked in. So what does the future look like? I don't know. I said all that to say, and I just really had to get this off my chest and talk to y'all, you know what I mean? Because when I be reading these headlines, and I'm reading these articles, and I be watching other people's videos, bro, this stuff don't make no sense to me, bro. None. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never play for him again. And this is the last thing I want to talk about. Maybe not the last thing. I might spin the block on the Sixers. Who knows? Because I do have some little bit of other stuff I want to talk about. The NBA is dead right now. I ain't gonna hold you outside of this stuff. Well, thank you for pulling up to the stream. We are going to talk about Anthony Edwards and some FIBA stuff for a second, but this is the last thing I want to talk about, and I need y'all to understand, because this ain't what I'm about to read ain't even everything, but I need y'all to understand why I be going through it as a Sixers fan. So 2 things I thought were hilarious. One, Anna Horford still hates us. If you don't know how Anna Horford is, she's Al Horford's either older or younger sister. She's Al Horford's sister. When Al Horford played for the Sixers, Twitter was like just talking about him like crazy because he came to Philly and forgot how to play basketball. Anna Horford was trying to defend him on Twitter. They was like, yo, we gonna come for you too. So Anna Horford hates the Sixers. She still be low-key subtweeting us, right? So she tweets this. Screen share right. She tweets, it's almost like the entire organization is one giant miserable show, right? And I'm like, dang, Anna, I thought you was done. Nah, the thing is, it ain't low key. She be frying us, and she hates us with a passion. It ain't low key. She do be frying us. She got this off. It's almost like the whole organization is terrible, right? And then somebody says, Pete, well, whoever, Harden is a unhappy malcontent. Harden is an unhappy malcontent everywhere he goes. But yeah, it's the organization. And then my man Anthony Cook with the screenshot. He says, yeah, it's the organization. 2013, we traded 21-year-old all-star point guard to Tank. Shout out to Drew. Third straight center. Shout out to Okafor and why is his name just blanking right now? Y'all know who I'm talking about. Box cut, jukebox fro. Shout out to both of them. Hired their advisor's son to run the team. Shout out to Colangelo situation. That was great. The number 1 pick loses the ability to shoot the basketball. I'm so happy that Marco Fultz is killing it in Orlando right now, but I was so confused when he was on the Sixers. GM trashed their star player on Twitter under burner accounts. Shout out to Colangelo. Just so great. It was just wonderful, him and his wife tweeting. Hired a new GM with no experience. To this day, I have no idea why Elton Brand got that job right after Colangelo. Traded away Jimmy Butler. That's a whole conversation for a whole another day. People just get stuck on that one part. Traded away Jimmy Butler. Tobias Harris over me. That goes viral. It's a little deeper than just that. Mainly Jimmy Butler was like, I'm not playing with Ben Simmons and what is our coach's name? Brett Brown. So what do? Right after that, we get rid of Brett Brown anyway, and we bring in Doc Rivers. Before we let Elton Brand do the hiring of Doc Rivers is what I'm trying to say. So it goes from Elton Brand, you can get to fire Brett Brown and bring in Doc Rivers, but then also Elton Brand, you're out. Daryl Morey's in. Well, technically you're still here, but you're now under Daryl Morey, and Daryl Morey's making all the decisions. Why didn't we let Daryl Morey pick our head coach at the time anyway? Oh, who would have thought? 2021 star point guard demands a trade. Wow, Ben Simmons is gone. Investigated for tampering, and now star point guard demands a trade again. When I tell you the last 10 years of being a Sixers fan have just been, they've been fantastic. The last 10 years of being a Sixers fan have just absolutely been fantastic. Oh, and don't even get me started on the we could have had Tatum. Like, and once again, I rock with Fultz. Cool. Real smooth. He one of my favorites right now too. Like I truly rock with Fultz and wish him the best. That is one thing about me as a Sixers fan. I'm gonna be mad at some of the drafts we make, especially like Fultz. He just, I don't know what it was. Injuries, yips, whatever you want to call it. He was not hooping for Philly. The defense looks a lot better. The mid-range shot looks really good actually. His pull-up midi, like he got the speed to just stop with a dime, pull up. Like Fultz's game is nice in Orlando, not in Philly. Maybe he needed warm weather. I don't know. Maybe Joel Embiid is the problem. Maybe he cursed this. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But the last 10 years have been crazy. People are saying this can't get it done with Ben, Fultz, Butler, and now Harden. Yes and no. Has Joel Embiid had some shortcomings? Sure. Has Joel Embiid also part of his shortcomings is just, be on the court, Joel? Just same thing we say to Anthony Davis. Just be on the court in the playoffs, and for the most part, you're probably going to perform well. But if you're also battling an injury, you're not going to perform well. And that Hawks series, he did not perform well. The year before that, when we lost, like we just so many second round exits, bro. Yeah. And the minimum playoff success in that picture. So it's all right. Y'all got the Eagles. I mean, we do. The Sixers, Philly fans are surviving off that Super Bowl win. And what was that, 2018 now? Was that already 2018? That feels so long ago. Either 18 or 19. It might have been 18. We surviving. Philly fans are solely surviving off that Super Bowl win. We are surviving off that Super Bowl win. Joel Embiid will definitely win a chip just now for Philly. That's not impossible. That is not impossible. Couple of other things. Few things. I think I'm done talking about the Sixers. I think I am done talking about the Sixers. Somebody brought up Anthony Edwards earlier. I want to say this. I don't remember where the you've been watching USA basketball. We'll use this to segue into it. Sleazy ass, I've been watching about USA basketball. I want to say somebody mentioned, hey, 2018, I'll be my Patriots. Exactly. I knew it was 2018. Sleazy ass has been watching USA basketball. I know. That's what Will Grimm asked Anthony Edwards. So, truthfully, I haven't watched a USA basketball game in its entirety live yet. They just been on in weird times, and I've been missing them. There's 2 games that are happening this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. I plan on trying to watch both of them in their entirety live. But I have been watching, they got the 15-minute extended highlights on YouTube. I've been watching them after the games. And I will say I'm liking what I'm seeing. The Sixers, see, look, y'all got me still talking the Sixers. Team USA has won the last 3 games they've played. The best game, in my opinion, in terms of just watching a game that was competitive, in terms of even if it was just the highlights, was that game against Spain. It was a tie game all the way up until sometime in the fourth quarter. Then they go on a 10-0 run, and they get some distance there. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from them. I've been very impressed by, at least once again, just by the highlights and reading some articles of just what other people have been saying about him, watching videos and stuff what other people are saying about him. Been really impressed by Jalen Brunson, his ability to get into the lane. Been really impressed by his ability to. He's getting to the cup, but his 5-foot out game, his float game is really nice. His long layup game is really nice. his stop and pull up like right inside of the free throw, like at the top of the paint, has been really, really nice. So I'm liking a lot what I'm seeing from Jalen Brunson. Not saying that it's necessarily surprising me because he literally did all that against Miami in the playoffs, but I'm liking to see the continuation of it. I've really liked the defense I've seen from Jaren Jackson Jr. I'll be honest, since you bring up Anthony Edwards, I feel like I haven't seen a ton from him of Anthony Edwards. That's just me. I could be false. If I am, you know what I mean? Let me know. But I feel we don't really got the hustle 2. We really got the hustle part 2 with Ant and Juancho. Yeah. They saying they're going to lose because they don't have any superstars. That is interesting. Yeah, I didn't see, I'll be honest, I didn't see what Gil said, but I have seen a lot of people say they're going to lose because they don't have any superstars. And I wanted to speak to that. So the FIBA, to me, the stars don't necessarily go to FIBA in my mind. Like this, by the stars, I mean, I think it's twofold here. One, the stars in terms of like the top 5 people for MVP votings don't necessarily always go to the FIBA. They just traditionally haven't always, right? But on the flip side, the top 3 people in MVP this year, like the superstars in the NBA right now, aren't American. Luka, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid. You ask a lot of people in like NBA world, NBA spaces, you can, if you poll 100 people who make NBA content on either TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, just poll any 100. I don't care what size of following, whatever success they have. Those 4 people, I guarantee you, are in most of their top 5. So most people's consensus top 5 players aren't even American. So the argument that superstars aren't playing for Team USA and playing in FIBA, then we got to adjust our mind shift. That's the game of basketball is really becoming a global game. And a lot of the best players in the world are global players. Like even fringe guys that people love, because I was seeing that, start bench, like cut one that had SGA in it, like the ranked before players like SGA, Booker, I want to say it was Anthony Davis and Tatum. I've been seeing that a lot lately too. But even, yes, SGA is getting compared to the likes of Anthony Davis and Booker. SGA is Canadian. So like he playing for the Canadian team. So I think we really have to adjust our mindset here when we're just making these blanket statements of the superstars aren't playing for Team USA and FIBA. The superstars are global. There ain't just Americans are, I'm a toot our little American horns. I still think Team USA can put together the best team in the world, but there are some really good players. Like, and yes, the big dogs play in the Olympics. So this is my point about, so last time we were in FIBA, 4 years ago, 2014 FIBA, I'm going to tie this all together. Hear me out. So 2014 FIBA was Steph Curry. Let me just pull this up so y'all can see it. Wow. When you look at the roster from 2014, it wasn't the superstars. The superstars just don't go to FIBA. They just don't. It was my other light just died. It's all right. It was Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Derrick Rose, 2014 Derrick Rose, mind you, Kenneth Faried, Rudy Gay. I love him, but not the superstars. DeMar DeRozan was in his prime then. Kyrie was in his prime then. Mason Plumlee was there. DeMarcus Cousins, shout out to him. James Harden was, getting into his prime. He had not won an MVP yet. Anthony Davis was still on the Pelicans. Don't get me wrong, Warriors games are still must-see TV. I loved watching Warriors Clippers games during this time period, that 2013, 2014, 2015, time span. But none of these guys were superstars and they still won gold. So my point is, when it just comes to FIBA ball, the superstars don't play. They don't play consistently on a regular basis, right? So when people talk about Team USA and, try to downplay some of these guys, these some real hoopers that are there. They ain't who they fully can be yet. Because some of the names I just mentioned off, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, James Harden. Shoot, I'm even gonna throw DeMar DeRozan in there. He was 28. He was just entering in his prime. Oh, they do have the ages here. Let me go back and show y'all. It be young dudes in FIBA. Steph Curry was 26. Klay Thompson was 24. Kenneth Faried was 24. Good Lord. Derrick Rose 25. DeMar DeRozan was 25, bro. Kyrie was 22. James Harden was 25. Anthony Davis was 21. It was all young dudes on the FIBA team. They send young dudes to FIBA. They send the young, talented dudes to FIBA. But also the part that makes me so excited that how Team USA operates and runs FIBA. What happens shortly after that? Steph ends up winning the MVP, goes on his crazy run. Klay Thompson solidifies himself as the second best player of all time. DeMar DeRozan, he didn't do nothing crazy, but in my mind, he solidified himself as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Toronto Raptors player in terms of just what he did for their city outside of Kawhi, because Kawhi just happened to show up for 1 year and win the championship because he's Kawhi. But outside of him, DeMar DeRozan solidifies himself as the best Raptors player of all time. James Harden goes on and win the championship in 2 years after that. Anthony Davis, outside of some injuries, a lot of people say he's vaulted himself where he should have, in the future, could have had whatever MVPs or defensive player of the years, either in the past or in his future. Just really depends on his health and how much he's on the court. Players go to FIBA and play for Team USA and come back different animals, bro. I'm so excited to see what a lot of these young guys are going to turn into in the following years after this FIBA summer, bro. Not you cooking right now. To be fair, Hawk, even if it's FIBA, NBA is so talented that the Team USA can get great players and win gold without the top players. That's also true. Because while I'm saying all this, it's not like I'm saying the guys we sent aren't good. The guys we sent are great. The guys we sent are all-stars still, bro. Like, the guys we sent are the next generation of what we expect to be the faces of the league. Like, the way Timberwolves fans, and I'm really excited to watch them. That's what I'm saying. I hope to catch more FIBA this weekend, and especially going into next season. The way Minnesota Timberwolves fans talk about Anthony Edwards, they expect him to be the face of the league in like 6 years. Like, they expect him to win an MVP in his future. They expect him to be one of the best players in the league. Like, that's the type of projection that Minnesota Timberwolves players are telling me Anthony Edwards has. On a regular basis, they telling me this. So I'm really excited to see how them playing here in this FIBA and for Team USA continues to develop them. And I think when people talk bad about this team, or when they look at this roster and they say, who are these guys, or they ain't got no superstars, y'all know I hate this word. I'm not going to necessarily call them that, because I don't mean it necessarily as an insult, but I truly means like, all right, you don't really watch hoop like that. Like, you don't watch the NBA like that. You casually watch the NBA, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean, you turn on the TNT on Thursday nights and watch those games, which is cool. But if you just watch that, you're not gonna know Anthony Davis, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr. You're not gonna know they cold like that. You're not gonna know they cold if you only watching the games on TNT on Thursdays. You just not gonna know, which is fine. But hopefully they're gonna watch FIBA, get the NBA itch, watch some FIBA, and then realize how good some of these young players are. They all young now, exactly. Don't forget about Prime Coach K. Any team Prime Coach K probably going to win. Yeah, that is true. But Steve Kerr ain't no slouch in himself. Casual say. They're not casuals. They just, and the reason I like always calling people casuals is because it might be a week where I find myself being a casual. It might be a week where work was a lot. I was hanging out with the wife or whatever, and I looked up and I myself even only watched the Thursday night game, and I just had to catch some highlights around the league for that week every now and then. Like, I ain't watched as many games as what, so I won't call them casuals. But like, if you're telling me, I should know the FIBA roster off the top of my head, but I just don't. And it's a lot of y'all know me. I be messing people's names up. Let me just look at the FIBA roster, our current FIBA roster. Team. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. I'm about to say, not the article saying people are not. Yo, just why? The only problem I have with, let me just pull up. The only problem I be having when it comes to Team USA stuff, specifically FIBA, it don't be easy to watch in terms of finding it, and it don't be easy to pull up the rosters when you want to on a very quick basis. Because I just want to look at the teams in comparison to what the 2014 team was in terms of who might break out, who might be the next, not the next Steph, not the next Harden or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But in terms of like, who are guys that in the future could have potential like MVP? Who could have like potential All-NBA? Like, who's going to make that next jump? And when I'm looking at this team, it is young guys. Paolo's 20. Mikal Bridges is 26. Jalen Brunson is 26. Anthony Edwards is 22 years old. Timberwolves fans be talking crazy about him. I ain't going to hold you. I'm not an Anthony Edwards hater. I'm a Timberwolves hater. And I think I'm realizing that. And it's only because they made a Rudy Gobert trade. I can't get over it. Because I really liked what Timberwolves were building. I was low-key a Timberwolves half fan. But I really hate that Rudy Gobert trade. And I really rock with Rudy. And I rock with Cat. But it was so dumb making them on the same team. So I just don't, I don't understand them right now. But Tyrese is 23. Josh Hart is 28. Brandon Ingram is only 25. Jaren Jackson Jr. is 23. Cam Johnson already 27? Oh, all right, my fault. Put some respect your name, Cam. Shout out to Bobby Portis, 28. Austin Reeves, 25. Like, this team is young and talented. There's guys who's already been All-Stars. Anthony Edwards was an All-Star last year. Jalen Brunson is All-Star, will probably be an All-Star. Mikal might be, I don't know. Mikal might be. Brandon Ingram. Jaren, like, this is a good team. I don't know, bro. I don't know. And honestly, some of these guys, Larry Brand, hey, what's good? Brunson will be on an Olympic team. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these, if a decent amount of these guys make it to the Olympic team when they make the full Team USA Olympic team for next year. Jalen Brunson can make that Olympic team. Mikal Bridges, quiet as kept. He not flashy, but he can make that Olympic team because of his two-way play. When people say this Team USA, I'm saying it. People who say the team is trash are just casuals. There, I said it because it don't make sense, bro. It don't make sense. I'm putting all my stock in Ant for the next 7 8 years, and that's what everybody telling me. That's what everybody telling me. Put your stock in Ant because he like that. People's telling me he's like that. Also, one thing that I thought was interesting in tying all that, that's what made me look into the 2014 FIBA team, is because I wanted to talk about this, and I've seen a lot of people, like Sleazy said, I didn't necessarily see what Gil's comments were, but I saw a lot of people talking about the team, right? And I said earlier, I've been watching a lot of Podcast P. I actually just finished Klay Thompson's episode, and one of the questions Paul George asked Klay Thompson was, what was Steph like when y'all was young? Like when y'all first got in the league, what was it like? And Klay said, honestly, me and Steph ain't really know each other like that until we played together in FIBA. And that's when we really got to know each other. We played a lot of golf together. We really got to hang out, to know each other. And then they messed around and won a championship in the next year. Like, the FIBA team is good. Excuse me. The FIBA team is good. Last thing I want to talk about. Let me see what I'm talking about in these comments before we move on. Let me see what y'all saying. We all know every player on the FIBA team is a rising star, a potential star, or a great role player for a contending team in the future. That's facts. That is facts. Everyone here, at the bare minimum, everyone here would play some very impactful minutes for a championship. At the floor, everyone here is playing impactful minutes for a championship team. Has the potential to, at least. We've seen Bobby Portis do it. I fully believe Josh Hart could do it. I think Walker Kessler could do it. Cam Johnson could do it. Like, everybody could, at the floor, play impactful minutes for a championship caliber team. That's facts. Got me thinking David Robinson. This got me thinking David Robinson's top center if he didn't serve in the Army. That's not impossible. I ain't gonna hold you. People really trying to hurt their brain. People, because nobody was watching the Jazz this year. Who was watching the Jazz? I ain't gonna cap. I was struggling to watch. I ain't watched that much Jazz, and the Jazz was killing. I watched the Jazz at the beginning of the season when it was like, oh, yo, the Jazz is actually, in the playoff mix. And when them Jazz started losing, I said, okay, I'm done watching the Jazz. So I get why people, don't know who Walker Kessler is. Hey, Uncle Larry, yes, I did talk about Harden in the beginning. We said a lot about Harden. If you don't feel like going all the way back, what I'm going to do is, what I like to do with a lot of these streams is, I usually like take out pieces, like whatever segment that we talked about for a while, and I upload it as a separate, like, full video. So I'll probably have the Harden one up. It's only 9 o'clock. Honestly, my goal is to have the Harden one up tomorrow. So when the Harden one's up, honestly, I will send you the link directly, so you know exactly what I was talking about. Walker Kessler was low-key a Rudy Gobert player as a rookie with all the blocks he got. Hey, Walker Kessler statistically was one of the best big man defenders in the league. He was the best big man defender in the league for a while there. Like, if you just, I'm not an OD advanced statistics guy. I look into him. I just don't talk about him that much in like content and on streaming stuff, because I think they're not personally how I watch the game all the time and how I like interpret and digest the game of basketball. But I do think there's value in understanding them, at least, and being able to put numbers to what you're seeing. The reason I don't talk about them all the time is because I feel like whenever I rewatch some of my content where I do talk about it, like advanced numbers and like rattle them off, it comes across as all I did was read these numbers, and that's not how I like to digest basketball. You know what I mean? I should set up a donation thing. You know what's hilarious? I'd be thinking about this. I'm just simply not at the monetization level for that on YouTube. Jazz is all right. They got it. Yeah, I mean, to an extent they did. Like, I was always in these nerds ruin basketball advanced stats. I was always like really getting into effective field goal percentage more than just like regular breakdown. Like win share. Yes, bro. Win shares. I'd be like, what are we talking about? I saw, you know what? Sleazy. I didn't know how to segment into the last thing I was going to talk about, because this is literally like the last thing I have. Unless y'all have something else, we can go. We can talk about it. Like, nobody was talking about win shares 3 years ago. And that's brings me perfectly into what I want to talk about next. Wow. I wouldn't say Mars started it, but Mars was a big impact, especially in like the people who are currently 15 to, if you on social media, yeah. If you on TikTok, I ain't gonna hold you. If I'm Mars though, like, I feel like you gotta like have some pride in that. Like, I respect it a little bit. Let me share what I'm talking about here. So I'm sure we all saw this. Well, I can't be sure we all saw this, but I'm sure a lot of people saw this a couple weeks ago. I guess honestly, almost a full month ago by now. Nerd Sesh.
Melo is the most overrated NBA player ever. You have the
Nerd Sesh is a fairly popular podcast TikTok account. They are partnered with The Volume. They're under the same umbrella that Draymond Green's podcast is under. So like they, you know what I mean? They do numbers, you know what I mean? And one of the things they were talking about recently, those boys basketball knowledge. Oh, a Nerd Sesh? Yes, for the most part, yes. That's, I'd be rocking with them for the most part. But you bringing up win shares, I wanted to bring this up. They were talking about Carmelo Anthony like a month ago. This is what they had to say about Melo. And this is, let me just get off I will explain in a second. This ain't really no hate to Nerd Chest, to The Volume. I really have a lot of respect for people who take what they want to do in terms of like creating NBA content and turn it into like actual something for real, like being with The Volume and doing all this. So this ain't hate for them. I got a ton of respect for them and what the platform they've built. They literally doing what I want to do, and working with The Volume and all that. But I can disagree with their opinion. And you bringing up win shares was a perfect segue, because I think I'll get into it in a second. Just watch this. It's 1:30. If you haven't seen it, this was them talking about Melo sometime last month. No, you agreed with them? Oh.
Melo is the most overrated NBA player ever. You have the Denver years, where he is a great athlete and rim pressurer, but is a highly inconsistent jump shooter. So the bottom line result is that you have this volume, but league average efficiency scorer who is a uniquely bad playmaking star. He had the same number of turnovers as assists in his Denver career at 3.1 per game, and is a minus defensively. So in all of his Denver years, Melo's teams were a whopping 1 point per 100 possessions better with him on the floor than off it, which is a truly minimal contribution to winning if you are comparing him to any of his star peers. Then you have the New York years, where Melo is a significantly better jump shooter, but he's not nearly the same athlete. So the result is still a league average efficiency volume scorer who is a bad playmaker and who is a minus defensively. And this is like the ultimate archetype for the flashy star, non-winning player. I mean, who doesn't love a little bit of a Melo jab step pivot turnaround right in your mouth? Who didn't love young Melo with the cornrows flying high? But fundamentally, he never put together the traits that equate to winning basketball. In his playoff career, his efficiency plummeted to 51% true shooting, and he had more turnovers than assists on the playoff stage. And he really has one good playoff run in his whole career, that being the 2009 Western Conference Finals. His teams were worse with him on the floor in his playoff career, and they were barely better in the regular season. People elevate Melo into conversations that he has no place being in.
So this is my thoughts. Couple of thoughts here, right? Once again, no hate to Nerd Sesh. I respect what they do. They got a really good platform. And yes, they got some really good ball knowledge. Like they really know, they know hoop. They know what they're talking about for the most part. Real respect for them. And this is, and I'm gonna tell you, where's my mouse? Seahawk, you can't watch this and tell me you don't agree. This was my initial thought when I saw this, because I saw it in real time. I wasn't streaming. I don't think we didn't have a stream up at the time. Like I don't remember if we didn't have a stream. Like it wasn't enough to talk about just that. So I saved it and tucked it away for the next stream. That came out July 25th. While some of the stuff that he's saying makes sense, like just reading off the, like not reading off the stats. He know ball. I know he watched Melo at the time. Like I know he know what he's talking about. I'm not trying to sound disrespectful here, but essentially just reading off the stats, they're not false. The numbers don't lie. They're true numbers. My question or comment is this. This is how I know it's the dead of the offseason, because he starts off with Melo is overrated, and people put Melo on conversations he shouldn't be. Personally, and maybe I just don't be around toxic Twitter, I don't know, I don't see Melo in conversation you're not supposed to be. This to me came across as like, I just want not hate on Melo, but I just want to like knock Melo down a peg that no one else was really had him on. I think what happens a lot of time, this is me just talking from a content creator's like perspective, and partially why y'all haven't seen me on stream in like a month, or the TikToks be real sparse, is because it's not all the times, but at least once a summer, we get into the real doldrums of the summer, and we bring up names like T-Mac, like Melo. I guess mainly those two. T-Mac still in a different sense, but guys who get a lot of love, Allen Iversons get a lot of love, very minimal, if any, playoff success. When you get to the nitty gritty of their numbers, they're not beautiful. And we say they're overrated. My question is this. I disagree with the statement of Carmelo Anthony is overrated, because I don't see him rated improperly personally. Like I don't see tweets where people are like, yo, Carmelo's top 10 all time. I don't even see tweets people saying Carmelo's top 15 all time. I don't even see tweets people saying Carmelo's top 20, top 25. Like I don't see that. And to be honest with you, if you start rattling off top 20, top 25, I'd be like, I'm not listening to you, to be honest with you. Like, cause I love hoop, but not enough to be listening out top 25 players all the time. Like I'm just not that deep. I'm just not. I like talking about current hoop and what I'm watching. So personally, once again, no disrespect to the guys. I like them. I like their stuff. I don't watch them religiously, but I've seen some of their stuff. It just come across as I was bored and wanted to stir up some controversy and hate on Melo. Like, that's how it came across to me. Maybe I'm being a hater now by bringing it up and saying that, but I don't see Melo talked about crazy to call him overrated. Personally, let me see. Now I be seeing Melo on lot top 3 to 5 scores. I see. I hate it when Dame was talking about ring culture, but now more and more I understand. Now, ring culture is a real thing. The ring culture is a real thing because when you have players that are just beloved, and I don't think it's going to happen as much to Dame. It's still going to happen to him, but just not as much, is because with ring culture, people go, well, you haven't won a ring. And then they start looking at your advanced stats, because also when you're looking at past players, past their careers, the best and easiest way to talk about them is by just pulling up Basketball Reference. Go to NBA.com and go into stats. Go to Basketball Reference. Go to Cleaning the Glass. Go to, you know what I mean? Like, the only way to talk about them is just their stats. Because when you're talking about current players, there's more nuance because everybody watched the game. Like, everybody's been at least seeing them a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, months, whatever. But when you go to talk about Melo, unless you're talking about to a group of 3-4 guys who all just was recently watching some Melo tape, you can't really get into nuance of what his game is. You just say he was mid-average percentage from 3, mid-40s, whatever he shot from mid. You just put out rattling off numbers, and they don't look as good as a Kevin Durant. They don't look as good as a Kawhi, a MJ. Like, they just don't look as good as some other guys. But then you'd be like, well, hold on now. Why are you're comparing? Then you start comparing. Honestly, people start comparing guys to some of the greatest players who ever touched the basketball. And I just feel like we get into the doldrums of the offseason. People get bored and go, let me open up Basketball Reference and see who I can talk about today. And usually it's Carmelo. It's because it was T-Mac a little bit ago. It's Allen Iverson almost once a year. People be like, AI wasn't as good as y'all thought he was. He just won that one run in 2001. And it's just interesting to me. And I don't think personally it's an overrating, because like I said, I don't see people ranking. I saw Sleazy say some people rank Melo top 3-5 scorers all time. I think in his prime when he was doing it, those were conversations. I don't think people were like definitively saying top 3-5 scorers of all time. Like, if you told them, all right, we'll name the 5, I don't think people were having that conversation where they was just naming them. I think people was just, that was something to say, because at the time when we're watching Knicks tape and we're watching the Knicks, when Melo and Paul George are going back and forth battling in the playoffs, Melo was looking crazy. And also as MSG, he dropping 40 on the biggest stage in sports. So he's going to have some allure to him. He's going to have a little more shine on him than a lot of other people, solely based off the fact that he played in MSG. He was dropping 40 in MSG. That was his home. Like, New York is Carmelo Anthony. People don't even be thinking about his Denver days like that. People think about talking about Melo and they see that Knicks jersey and then they're like, oh yeah, he was cold with them braids in Denver. That's usually all you hear when people say Melo. He was cold with them braids in Denver. But we talk about him in New York, which is fine. He played in the Mecca. He played in the biggest market. So he going to have some extra love. But I don't think that extra love that he gets, because a lot of fans love Melo. But just because you love somebody personally, it doesn't mean that you overrate them. It's a lot of players who I love. Like, I could talk about for days. But if you ask me for real where I rank him, or if I even rank him, or where I see him all the time, like, I mean, he wasn't, like, he ain't him. Like, you know what I mean? But there's plenty of dudes who I love their game. And Melo's one of the people who was really good. Don't get me wrong. All NBA, all-star. Like, he was really good. Olympic gold medalist, like FIBA champ. Like, he was really him. He just wasn't, all-time great level. He wasn't GOAT level. He wasn't that level, but he was a dude who could go. Melo could go. And I think because he gets so much love, because people love him so much, people confuse that love with overrating. That's all. You know what I mean? That's all. You're not wrong, Hawk. I agree. What we saying? Let me see. Everybody understood what Melo brought to the game and what he didn't. I literally made a top 10 list and forgot about him. He's obviously not overrated. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people, depending on, I'm gonna keep it a beat. I don't think did Melo make top 75? Did he make the all 75 list? Is Carmelo and cause this going on the top 75. Anthony Lesley be his source. He ends his playing days after being selected as one of the 75 greatest players in history. 10-time All-Star, past scoring champ. Let me go basketball reference. Because I'm not even off the top of my head 100% familiar with Carmelo Anthony's resume in terms of like All-Star NBA. 6-time All-Star, 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, 2013 scoring champ. Leaderboards, awards, and honors. A little bit of lag action. Hold on, computer. How many extra seconds he got? Anyway, let me keep going. Hoop is a team game. Melo's not an all-around player. And I don't, that's fine. I agree. But there's plenty of guys who are all-around players. You know, like, Melo is loved in the sense of, I'm trying to think of a semi-old school guy. George Gervin. Like, Iceman. Iceman was cold. Iceman was smooth. Iceman, like, we all knew George Gervin, Iceman could go. But ain't nobody bringing up George Iceman Gervin when they talking about their top 15 players of all time. When they talking about, like, all-time great. People show him mad love. People love his game, but I don't think anybody's calling Iceman overrated. Very similarly, I don't think people need to call Melo overrated. People love his game, and we know he can go, but it's just levels to it. You feel me? And George Gervin was cold. Melo was all buckets, literally all buckets. Even bring up his assist numbers is crazy to me. That's also facts. That wasn't his game. That's not what he was asked to do. That's not what he was on his team for. I don't know. You be frying, Allen. Come on, sleazy. Nah, I found my new content. AI, that's the thing. I don't think AI is overrated. I don't know the last time I saw somebody say a list of like top X shooting guards and AI was on that many people's lists. But I don't think AI is necessarily overrated either. He's just loved. And you know what's crazy? Why AI loves so much? AI did what he did in Philly. And what are Philly fans known for? Talking loud. Y'all might hate us for it, but Philly fans gonna get their opinions out there and they gonna talk them loud. If you play for the right city, you gonna be immortalized forever because your fan base ain't gonna be quiet. Yes, Melo brought some life back to MSG. Like, it was just a moment. When Melo was in New York, it was a moment. And people remember that. Let me see. Sleazy, that's so true. People, oh, what's good? Unlimited. I didn't even see you in the chat. What's good with you? That's so true. People have him over Harden. Well, all right. Okay. Only person that's super overrated. That's tough, though. That's tough. Bernard King, another great name, Larry. Like another great name of a guy who we knew he could go and he was loved. I'm frying AI for content tomorrow. I'm dead. But it's just like, I don't think the idea of calling someone overrated fits for it. Just don't fit for everybody. You can say they're loved. You can say you don't like their game that much. Like, there's just got to be another way to talk about it. And I get it. We in the content game. We talk about it for clicks, shares, whatever. And maybe that's why I ain't gonna blow up like I should blow up or how I want to blow up, because that's not my lane. That's just not my lane. My mind wouldn't even fathom me like, you know what? I'm gonna hate on Melo today. Like that wouldn't even. Dominique, he could go. Like, yes, Dominique's another great example. Ain't nobody pulling up Dominique's stats right now and saying he was overrated. No one's doing that. So why are we doing that to Melo? Is it because he's somewhat recent still? Or is it because people don't remember his full career? People only know him from his OKC and Portland days? I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, that's all I had. It was a lot of energy. It was a lot of like passionate things I wanted to talk about today. That Melo stuff and that Sixer stuff really got to me. I do appreciate y'all for pulling up to the stream tonight. I'm not even gonna make the promise that I'll be here next week. I'll make an announcement in a couple of days leading up to it. This was a good stream. Appreciate that, Sleazy. I had a good time. Hopefully y'all did as well. Normally I would say I'll see y'all next week, but I can't confidently say that because listen, y'all, listen. I don't want to come on here like this was a good stream. I hope y'all had a good time. I had a good time. Like my energy was high. I really had some passionate stuff I want to talk about. If I'm not passionate and don't really got something I really, really want to say, y'all just heard me go on about Melo and just not making up content. I ain't gonna make it up. So I'm gonna see y'all when I see y'all. It ain't gonna be too long because listen, we got more FIBA coming up. It's August. So next month, September. Preseason starts in October. September should mean training camp should start soon. Honestly, keep it a bean. I'm hoping we'll see some sort of signing soon. Guys, like I want to say Kelly Oubre is still a free agent. There's still a couple of like half decent dudes that are free agents that I'm waiting to see where they go to. I think some teams are waiting to see what happens with this Harden and Dame situation before they finalize some of these rosters. Teams like who was it? Is it OKC? Some team I was just reading about. Some teams still got like 16 players on a roster. So it's still going to be a little bit more movement that we'll see probably in September, right before training camp gets kicked off. But I'm almost certain I'll see y'all before August is out. I'm gonna go chop all these clips up and definitely get that Harden one out for y'all ASAP. And I'll catch y'all the next one. Appreciate y'all for pulling up. I had a good time. I'm out of here. Peace. Ugh.